Some movies define a decade. Others get lost in time. The 1960s gave us some of the greatest films ever made, but many masterpieces slipped through the cracks. These are 10 incredible films from the 60s that deserve more attention. Movies that pushed boundaries, redefined genres, and still feel fresh today. If you think you've seen it all, think again. A photographer snaps a picture and accidentally captures something he was never meant to see. But did he really? Blow Up isn't a typical mystery. It's an existential puzzle that refuses to be solved. Set against the swinging backdrop of 60s London, this film dives into a world of fashion, fame, and hidden secrets beneath the glittering surface. Director Michelangelo Antonioni masterfully creates a dreamlike atmosphere, pulling viewers into a foggy haze of uncertainty. Each new clue only deepens the mystery. As the photographer obsessively enlarges his images, reality itself begins to fracture. Is he uncovering a conspiracy, or is his mind slipping into paranoia? Even today, filmmakers from Brian De Palma to Christopher Nolan cite Blow Up as a major inspiration. Its enigmatic story, haunting visuals, and chilling ambiguity have influenced countless thrillers. By the time you reach the film's shocking yet strangely poetic ending, you'll realize some mysteries can never truly be solved. A wealthy man hires a servant to manage his home, but soon it's unclear who's really in control. The servant is not just about power, it's about the slow, insidious way power shifts. What begins as a polite professional relationship between Tony, James Fox, a privileged upper-class gentleman, and Barrett, Dirk Bogarde, his dutiful manservant, slowly warps into something far darker. Barrett isn't just serving his master, he's replacing him. Joseph Losey's direction and Harold Pinter's razor-sharp script create a film dripping with unease. Every glance, every silence, every shift in lighting hints at something bubbling beneath the surface. Barrett subtly asserts himself, inch by inch, turning the house into his own domain. And when his accomplice arrives, posing as his sister, the psychological warfare only deepens. With its eerie cinematography, claustrophobic atmosphere, and unnerving power dynamics, The Servant is a psychological thriller disguised as a domestic drama. Even today, its themes of class tension, manipulation, and toxic dependence feel eerily relevant. By the time the final act unfolds, one thing is clear: power doesn't change hands with force. It seeps in, one small victory at a time. Snow falls on the streets of New York. Christmas lights flicker. But for one man, this is not a season of joy. It is another job. Blast of Silence pulls you deep into the mind of a killer. From the moment the gravelly voiceover begins, you are no longer just watching, you are inside his head. You were born in pain, the narration sneers, dragging you along as contract killer Frankie Bono stalks his target. The use of second-person narration makes the audience an unwilling accomplice. You feel the loneliness. You sense the inevitable failure. And as Frankie starts to question his own path, you feel trapped in his world of silent violence, regret, and paranoia. Alan Barron, who directed and starred in the film, turns New York into a cold, unfeeling maze. The dark alleys, neon reflections, and jazz-infused score create an atmosphere as bleak as the man at its center. Many crime films followed. Taxi Driver, Drive, You Were Never Really Here. But Blast of Silence set the tone. And yet this tense, unrelenting noir remains buried in time. Why have so few people seen it? And why does it still leave such a lasting impression? Target's 1968. A horror legend. A rising killer. Two stories on a collision course, one fictional, one horrifyingly real. This is the tension at the heart of Targets, a film that feels more unsettling now than it did in 1968. Boris Karloff plays an aging horror actor who no longer understands the world around him. Once, monsters lived on screen. Now, they walk among us. Meanwhile, across town, a quiet young man prepares for something unthinkable. He buys a rifle, packs extra ammunition, and with chilling calm, he begins his killing spree. No backstory, no motive. Just violence, random and unstoppable. Peter Bogdanovich's directorial debut blurs fiction and reality, showing how cinematic horror was being eclipsed by something far worse: real-world terror. The climactic showdown forces the audience to confront a terrifying question: when real life becomes more violent than movies, where do we turn for escape? With its unnerving realism and unsettling prescience, Targets remains one of the most haunting films of its era. A film that asks, decades before its time, what happens when the horror leaves the screen and enters our world? Failsafe, 1964. No satire, no absurd humor, just cold, relentless terror. While Dr. Strangelove turned nuclear war into dark comedy, Failsafe presented it as a slow-motion nightmare, a scenario so real it feels like it could happen at any moment. A simple technical glitch, one small mistake, and suddenly, US bombers are en route to destroy Moscow, with no way to call them back. The president, played by Henry Fonda, is forced into an impossible situation: negotiate, sacrifice, or risk nuclear annihilation. Every second drips with tension as he tries to prevent a catastrophe that already seems unstoppable. Shot in stark black and white, with tight close-ups that trap the audience inside the crisis, Failsafe is a claustrophobic descent into Cold War paranoia. No music, no distractions, just ticking clocks, desperate voices, and the terrifying realization that human error is more dangerous than any weapon. So why was this brilliant, harrowing thriller overshadowed? Released in the same year as Dr. Strangelove, it was eclipsed by Kubrick's biting satire. But watch it today and Failsafe feels more terrifying than ever, because its warning was never a joke. Face of Another, 1966. What if you could change your face, erase your past, become someone new? A disfigured man receives a lifelike mask, crafted by a mysterious surgeon. But it is not just a mask, it is an entirely new identity. Slowly as he wears it, something shifts. Does he control the mask, or does the mask control him? This is not a traditional horror film, but its existential dread is suffocating. Director Hiroshi Teshigahara crafts a world of unsettling, dreamlike visuals. Sterile rooms, distorted reflections, faces that feel familiar yet alien. The camera lingers on details that shouldn't be terrifying but are. As the protagonist drifts further from himself, the film asks disturbing questions. Are we only the people others see? If given a new face, would we still be the same person? Or would we become someone unrecognizable, even to ourselves? With its haunting atmosphere and deeply unsettling themes, The Face of Another is a slow-burning nightmare of identity loss. It lingers long after the credits roll, whispering a question we may not want to answer. Are we more than the faces we wear? A Child is Waiting, 1963. A school where children long for understanding. A teacher who wants to make a difference. A system that is not ready to change. Judy Garland and Burt Lancaster star in A Child is Waiting, a film that refused to look away from the realities of special needs education. Garland plays a passionate yet untrained teacher, drawn into the lives of children society often ignores. Lancaster, the school's stern yet dedicated director, believes in tough love. But is that enough? Director John Cassavetes does not rely on sentimentality. Instead, he brings a raw, documentary-like approach, casting real children with developmental disabilities, ensuring the performances feel heartbreakingly real. The camera lingers on their struggles, their joy, their need for connection, moments that are rarely shown in Hollywood films. The film asks uncomfortable questions. Should special needs children be treated differently or equally? Does compassion matter more than discipline? And who really decides what is best for them? A Child is Waiting was ahead of its time, tackling issues still debated today. It is a quiet, powerful film that lingers, forcing viewers to confront not just the system, but their own beliefs. Latrue, 1960. A prison cell, a hole in the floor, a plan that must be perfect. This is not a Hollywood spectacle. Latrue is stripped down, methodical, and brutally real, a prison break film that refuses to sensationalize. Every hammer strike against concrete, every cautious glance between prisoners, every second of silence builds unbearable tension. Director Jacques Becker crafted the film with excruciating authenticity, even casting one of the real-life escapees to play himself. There are no dramatic music cues, no over-the-top chases, just 5 men working in absolute secrecy, knowing one wrong move means life in solitary, or worse. The camera lingers on small details: sawdust falling from a hole, a handmade tool scraping against steel bars, forcing the audience to feel every second of their struggle. By the time the escape is set in motion, the suspense is almost unbearable. And yet, this is not a victory story. The film asks a chilling question. Even if you break free, are you ever truly free? Point Blank, 1967, the coolest revenge thriller you've never seen. A man is double-crossed, left for dead, but he comes back. Not for justice, not for redemption, for his money. Lee Marvin barely speaks, but every movement, every glance is pure menace. He's not just hunting down the people who betrayed him, he's tearing through a surreal, dreamlike world where nothing feels real. Is he alive? Is he dead? Or is he just a force of revenge that cannot be stopped? Point Blank was ahead of its time. Director John Borman shattered expectations, turning a simple crime story into a disorienting, hypnotic descent into vengeance. Its DNA is everywhere, from Drive to John Wick. And yet, Point Blank remains strangely overlooked, its icy cool style and brutal efficiency as fresh and dangerous today as it was in 1967. The Bedford Incident, 1965. The Cold War thriller that ends in disaster. A single mistake, a moment of tension stretched too far, and suddenly, the world is on the brink of nuclear war. The Bedford Incident is one of the most chilling and overlooked Cold War thrillers ever made. It follows a U.S. Navy destroyer relentlessly hunting a Soviet submarine, with Richard Widmark's obsessive, war-hardened captain pushing his crew to the breaking point. But this is not an action movie. It is a slow-burning descent into paranoia, where the fear of the enemy becomes more dangerous than the enemy itself. Every decision, every escalating order brings them closer to disaster, until the unthinkable actually happens. Unlike other Cold War films, The Bedford Incident doesn't offer comfort, heroism, or easy answers. It holds up a mirror to real-world tensions, where a single misunderstanding can erase everything in an instant. Decades later, its message still feels terrifyingly relevant.